Algeria. Algeria is a very important country, especially in the international geopolitical calculations, due to many reasons. The first, Algeria right now is the biggest country in Africa after the division of Sudan to North and South Sudan, and also due to its important role in the geopolitical region. It's right now the biggest gate toward the Western countries, especially toward Europe. And the Europeans and the Western countries, they know this very well. And also, Algeria plays a very important role in implementing peace in the Sahelian region, especially what happened before and the destabilizations that appeared after the willing of the Tuareg of North Mali to get their independence. And also, right now, Algeria is playing a very, very important role in regulation the flow of migration. And this is one of the very important roles for the Europeans right now. And also another point why Algeria is a very, very important country, I think it's also the future of Algeria in the geopolitical game that will be very, very, very important in the Mediterranean Sea. Because of many reasons also, Algeria, I think, is a very, very important country, and it's very interesting to know more about Algeria, especially after the 22nd of February 2019. 22nd of February. I think what happened at that time is the willing of a war people to regain dignity. Many persons say it was about democracy, freedom, and rule of law. But profoundly, I think it was this willing of war people to regain dignity for many reasons. I think that the Algerian people, especially after what we call the technological revolution and the appearance of social media, they are more open to the world. And they saw what happened in Canada with Justin Trudeau, and they have a good president, and the president who is talking to its people. And they saw in France with a young president, and they saw in very many countries that they have this spirit of leadership. So this is the real point where the Algerian, I think, they felt really touched in their dignity. And I think that they thought that their dignity was profoundly touched. Because of this, they go to the streets and they said enough is enough, and right now we should have another functioning of the state, and we want to say our words in the decisional process. What is the real problem after all? The real problem after all, it's not only this willing to regain dignity, but the real problem in Algeria is more deeper than this. I think we saw right now the real problem in Algeria. And it was discussed since the revolution. And it is this importance of the military in the political arena. And we are asking the question, should the military play the major role, or the political should play the major role? Since the independence, I think that the military played the first and the last role, and they are in all things, and they are finally the real decision makers. After all, there is no democracy, there is no people, there is no institutions. The military, they want to say that we are the fathers, we are everything for Algeria. We made Algeria. They think that they are the founders, this spirit of patriarchalism, because the revolution was done by weapons, of course. So because of those things, the military, they saw themselves as the legitimacy, the profound legitimacy of the state. So this is the real problem. The military, they didn't understand that right now we should give the rule to politicians. And here it's the very, very important problem, and we didn't solve it till now. So, what is the role of the hierarchy right now? The hierarchy at the first was really to regain this dignity, this willing to say we are here, we are existing, we should say our word. But at the first months and first weeks of the hierarchy, the people didn't realize that the military are really the core element of the Algerian problematic. So they didn't start with shouting, for example, Gate Salah out, Madaniya and not Askariya, so civic country and not military country. I think this is the point who caused the division inside Iraq, because many people, they saw the military as the core element of the state. So we do not have this right to touch the military system or the military, because they are like the savers. They are the persons who are protecting us from the bad person, from al-Isaba, they call it Isaba. But in reality, it isn't like that, because what we want really, in reality, is this political process, and we should give for the politicians the right to decide the future of this country, and the military should step out from the political arena, and they will say, we are here just to keep safe our country from dangers who are coming from outside and inside. This is the real role of the military. But many people still right now, they didn't realize this profound problem, and we are in it and we are discussing it, and this is the real problem inside the Iraq, and the real negative point of it. And another negative point of the Iraq, I think it was the non-structurations of the Iraq, because when I talk about structures, I don't talk about representatives. I am talking about civil society, initiatives, the real tools of doing what we call a second step of a revolution. Because a revolution need to have structures, to need to have some vital element to push forward for a real process and to touch the real core element of the problematic. Because yes, okay, we said that we are in the street for our dignity and to say our word, but why it was happened? Yes, there is positive points, and one of the positive points, it was the first national-wide movement. And this is very important for Algeria as a whole and as a country, because it gave another birth for the Algerian consciousness, if I can say this. This is the first national wide movement, because before we had different movement, but they were regional or sectorial movement. In 1988, the first, like what we say, the first national movement, it was not really the national movement, it was only in biggest cities and some other cities around the country. But the 22nd of February, it was really the first movement nationally known. And before, there was also other movements, but especially known in Kabylia, for example, in 2001 and in 1980. So this is the first positive point. The second positive point, we succeeded to step down for the first time in our history a president in function. Maybe others say it was not like that and because of the military, etc. But if we were not in the streets, I think that Bouteflika, who will be right now our president, so they think it was also another element very, very important for our memory and for our history. The third element, I think we discussed a lot of points, and there is like what we call a turmoil. And the Algerian, they are discussing a lot of questions, feminism, liberty, freedom, democracy, rule of law, and all of this, it's a democratic process, in fact. And this is also another very important and positive point. The last one, I think, this is this to take back the public spaces, because in the past we get democracy and the rulers and the regime say, okay, we'll give you democracy and the freedom to found political parties, associations, etc. But the public spaces were not controlled by the people. And I think this is another very, very important role, that many people right now, they are controlling the public spaces and they are shouting out their will, and we can see this in social media and so on. International position. I think the international community, especially the Europeans and the US, they didn't want to intervene for many reasons. First, for the Europeans, they didn't want to intervene because of what happened in Libya and Syria. And they said it can go very bad. But the core element, it was migration. And they said, okay, we will not intervene. And why? Because if things will go bad, so we will not have this responsibility to welcome the refugees from Algeria. And another problem, if Algeria will explode in a revolutionary process and would have a very, very, very complicated situation as it was in Libya, so it will be like the open gate of migration from all the African continent toward Europe, and it will be very, very complicated. And even if we will listen to what the MPs, the French MPs in the European Parliament said in the recent session about Algeria, they said, look, we are for a democratical process, we are for the Algerian people, but France cannot welcome more refugees. Not because we don't want, because we cannot. So the migration played a major role to influence the European position. About the US, I think they are afraid to intervene, like in the past, and to make what you call to redistribute the courts inside the Algerian regime, because they know that the international community, it's not like it was in the past, because the Americans and the Westerners, they are allowed in redistributing courts inside a country after a revolution or after a political process. Because right now there are other players, especially Russia and China, and what happened in Syria, I think it was a very, very, very important example about this. So because of this, the Westerners, they take step back because of those things. Perspective. I think that as a people, as a citizen, as a person, we should permanently fight for freedom, for democracy, and for more rights. And it was like that. I think that the Iraq will end in a disillusion, and it will impact negatively the Algerian people. But we shouldn't stop because of this. We should continue, because I believe in this concept of Trotsky, the permanent revolution. I think we should continue even if things will go bad, and even if things will not be as we want from the first day of the Iraq. Thank you.